We can see you, we can hear you. Are we
Bethune-Cookman
recording?
University. How y'all feeling? Good. Y'all feeling all right? I hear y'all. I hear y'all. I hear y'all. Listen, so let me get this out the way. I know some of y'all looking like, oh my goodness, he looked like the weekend. I'm not the weekend. I am the weekday. I'm his cousin. I'm the one who couldn't make it. All right. So let's get that out the way so that way there ain't no chattering. Talk about he looking like the weekend. But listen, I just want to say first and foremost, thank you, Dr. Thompson, for giving me the awesome opportunity to be able to pour in to your students and BCU for the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys about purpose. And I know that this pandemic has caused a lot of stress. And I just want to start off by saying that there's already something in you that is great, right? Where many people wanted to quit, you've continued to persevere, right? You made it through high school, you graduated, as Drake said, you started from the bottom, now you're here. You're about to embark on your new journey as you start your higher education here at an HBCU at Bethune-Cookman University. Now, I want to talk about purpose, and I know that many people have different definition on what purpose is. But I love what William Damien, he's the director of the Stanford Center of Adolescence. He defines purpose as the following. He says a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is at the same time meaningful to self and consequential for the world beyond the self. Now, let me just simply break down what William Damien is saying. He's saying that purpose is ultimately something that is meaningful to you, something that drives you, that motivates you, and as a consequence or as a result, it ultimately impacts the world. So understand that as you enter into your freshman year, as you're getting yourself situated and oriented, as you're getting your class schedules and getting your shirts and getting all the documents needed to start the school year, just know that you have to keep in your mind, there has to be something that locks you in to say, why am I doing this? Why have I embarked on this journey? Because what if it's not meaningful to you, then you're never going to make an impact into the world. And so I'm going to share 3 ways on how you can find your purpose. Number one, you got to understand what your skills, your talents, and your gifts are. Some of you already know what your skills is. Some of you already know what your talents are. Some of you already know what you have been gifted with, but some of you may not know. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I found out what my talents, what my gifts, and what my skill set were so I can make a contribution to the world. So if you do not know what your gifts, your talents, and your skills are, I need you to really tone into what your parents are saying, what your peers are saying, what your administrators are saying, what your professors are saying, teachers, your tutors, whoever it may be, when they tell you, listen, you have a gift, you have a talent, you have a skill. I need you to listen to what they're telling you so that way you're able to ultimately unlock your purpose that you've been called to do. The second thing to understand your purpose is, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do that you can spend hours doing it and not get paid for it? If there's a saying that goes that if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And so not only knowing your skills, your talents, and your gifts, not only understanding your passion and what you love to do, the third thing that you must understand in order for you to unlock your purpose is, what problem do you see that needs to be addressed? It could be problems in your own life, in your home, in your school, in your community, or the world at large. But once you understand that there is a problem and you have a solution to that problem, what you have just embarked is that you have unlocked the keys to understanding your purpose. And so when you know what your skill set is, what your talent is, what your gift is, when you are passionate about it because you love doing it and you're resolving problems that you see, you have unlocked your purpose. But you see, that wasn't my case growing up. I heard these 3 words that they changed and impacted my life. When I heard the words, "You were a mistake," that's 4 words, not 3. And it was those words being said as I was being handcuffed and being taken away from my home because I was rebellious and I was not listening to the rules that was given to me. And those words that meant to impact me and hurt me at that moment did not, because truth be told, my mom was 60, my dad was 66, my mom was 44. When most people choose to retire, my parents decided to have me and bring me into this world. So when my dad told me those words, "You were a mistake," I'm like, you think? I wasn't supposed to be here. There was no reason for you and mom to be being intimate and bring me into this world. But little did he know that those words that planted in the back of my mind really projected me to make decisions that did not allow me to live my purpose. You see, I was a very rebellious child, and the rebellion stemmed from a lot of pain and hurt and questions that were not being answered. You can imagine me going to an all-black church, and I wasn't black enough because my mother was Puerto Rican. I was the light-skinned one that went to church. You can imagine me going to school where there was nothing but Latinos there, and my mom being Latin, my dad being black. They're telling me that I'm not Latino enough because my dad was African American. And so all throughout my journey, I was trying to find not only myself, my identity, but I was ultimately trying to find what is my purpose and the impact that I'm supposed to leave into this world. And I want to let you know right now that there are going to be people who are going to tell you that you can't make an impact because of your age. And I'm going to tell you that is nonsense. At the end of the day, there's something that stems in you that is great. There's gifts and talents that you possess that ultimately, when it's all said and done, when you utilize those gifts and your talents, when you understand the problems that are in the world, when you know what you are passionate about, you can change the world regardless of how young or how old you are. But because I did not understand that, I made bad choices, and so as a result, I gave my mom and my dad headaches. They didn't know how to they tried to box me in, when in reality there was a lot of energy that I was trying to utilize, but I was using it in the wrong sense. And so every summer I used to go to Puerto Rico because when I was a teenager, around 12, 11 years old, my mother and father split. My mother moved back to Puerto Rico. My father stayed in Orlando, Florida. And so my dad, as he was older, he couldn't really, tell me what I needed to do or what I could not do. And so every summer we went to Puerto Rico, and I was scooping around in his drawer, and I realized in his dresser there was two tickets, one round trip ticket for him and one ticket for me. And so my curious self, I asked Pops, I'm like, "Yo, Pops, why do you have a round trip ticket? Now, why do I only have one ticket?" He says, "Well, you have the whole summer to spend there. When you're ready to come back, I'll buy you a ticket on the way home." I'm like, "Cool." We go to Puerto Rico. 3 weeks later, my dad flies back. I spend the summer there, and right when school's about to start, I get that phone call. I'm like, "Yo, Dad, school's about to start. I'm ready to come home." And I heard the words, "Nah, you're not coming back. You staying with your mother." Boy, you can imagine the frustration as I heard those words, because I wanted to go back home. I had some goals that I wanted to achieve, right? I wanted to be with my friends. I was excited about entering my 8th grade year. And as I talked to my mother, I realized that my mom and my dad had this conversation without me. And here it is that I was forced to stay in a whole different culture, people speaking the language that I wasn't familiar with. And here it is that out of that disappointment came anger, came frustration, came rage. And so I rebelled. Anything that my mother would tell me, I would not listen to. Anything that authorities would tell me to do, I would not do. Why? Because there was pain that was driving. But little did I know that I didn't channel that pain into ultimately fulfilling a purpose. I did it to try to rebel against everything that everyone was telling me that I should and should not do. Things got so bad that I started smoking. At 15 years old, started drinking. Started robbing cars with the kids in the neighborhood. All of a sudden, I got so bad that I was skipping school. But the one saving grace that kept me somewhat controlled was the fact that I love basketball. I try to tell people before there was Steph Curry, there was Lo-Ammi Richardson, right? Don't let the hair fool you. Don't let the size fool you. I have that J. I still got it. Just my condition is a little off. You feel me? But as I played basketball, I realized that was my escape. That was the way that I was able to connect with people who had a different language barrier than me. And so they utilized basketball as a way to allow me to focus on doing my assignments, allow basketball to be the means to have me do the things that I needed to do in order for me to do to ultimately play in statewide tournaments and go traveling and do all those things. But because basketball wasn't my ultimate passion, I took shortcuts along the way. I realized quickly that my mouth got me into a lot of trouble. There was a saying that Biggie Smalls used to say. He said, even though I was wrong, they depicted me the boss, right? I always had to have the last word. And so when I was in class, I was the one who cut up. I was the one who cracked jokes. I was the one who was disturbing the class. And I remember one day in particular, there was a geometry teacher. She assumed that I was the one causing the problem in the classroom one day. And usually 99% of the time, it's usually me. But in this particular instance, I was like, no, it wasn't me. It was actually a good friend of mine who cracked the joke, and everybody laughed, and everybody was disturbing. And I remember like it was yesterday that she stopped writing the equation on the board. She put the chalk. This is before your time. She put the chalk on the board. And she says, Lo-Ammi, to the principal's office. Now, it ain't nothing to me. I always spent time in the principal office. Actually, I got to know all of the admin very well throughout my middle school and high school endeavors. But it was there that this lady started crying. This teacher started crying. She said, it's either him or me. Either he gets kicked out of school or I quit my job. And it was at that moment, listen to what I'm about to say, that I did not realize that words had power, that I had impact. The problem is that I was using it for the wrong purpose. I was using it for the wrong reason. And so unfortunately, I got suspended from school. And this was kind of my experience all the way through my middle school years. And it was until my sister, my family came together and they said, we're going to send this boy to a boot camp. Now, I don't know if you remember the Maury Povich show or the show called Scared Straight, where, they'll take these little bad teenagers into the prisons and they'll have these guards yelling at them. That's what they wanted to send me. And I realized, listen, I talk a lot of game, but I ain't the biggest thug in the world. So let me straighten up my act just good enough so I can move back to Orlando, Florida. I moved back to Orlando, Florida, but you would think that the lessons that I learned, the mistakes that I made would propel me to make a better choice, but it didn't. I want to stop by saying that the mistakes that you made in the past don't define who you are today. I'm letting you know that your mistakes in the past are simply stepping stones to your success in the future. But I didn't understand that at that time. Why? Because I didn't understand my purpose. I didn't understand who I was, what I was created to be. I didn't know my skills, my gifts, my talent. I didn't know what problem there was in the world. I just knew that everyone kept telling me that I was a problem. And it was during the high school, my high school, my sophomore year in high school, that I started hanging out with my friends. I cut class, but all the while I wanted to go play basketball. I wanted to play on the varsity team. But in order for me to play on the varsity team, guess what I had to do? I had to go to class. If I wanted to make the team, guess what I had to do? I had to have a good GPA. If I wanted to make the team, guess what I had to do? Turn in assignments. But I decided, nah, that's secondary. Ball is life. And when I tried out, I made the team, but got cut immediately because I didn't have a proper GPA. And here I was that I had goals for myself, but I did not understand the steps that I needed to take in order for me to achieve those goals. It was one fight that broke out, and I was in the midst of that fight. And I remember as they broke up that fight, the principal came out and they sent me to the principal's office. Again, that was my second home in high school. And I remember cursing the principal out because I told him, I ain't going to no bleeping office. And it was there that I got kicked out of school. And now I have the decision to make. Do I finish my GED, or do I have the option to go to Maynard Evans High School? And so if there's any Trojans in the building, I want you to make some noise. Shout out to all those who graduated from Maynard Evans High School. You know what I'm saying? That's my high school. That's my alma mater. But it was there as I went to Evans High School that I saw that there was teachers that was pouring into me. Though I was rebellious, they saw that it stemmed from something deeper, because they said there's something in you, Lo-Ammi, that's causing you to get in trouble. But if you can channel that energy into doing something positive, you can change the world. I got kicked out of private school with a 0.68 GPA, went to Evans High School and graduated with 2.4 and 16 credits more than what I needed. So what's the next step after high school? Of course, it's college. Everybody goes to college. But guess what? The only reason why I went to college, if I'm keeping it a buck, if I'm keeping it real with y'all, the only reason why I went to school was because my friends went to school. I didn't really want to go back into a classroom and learn and study and cram for exams. That wasn't my life. But what was the bigger purpose for me? I thought it was basketball. And so I went to go again to basketball. I went to college so I can ultimately try to be put onto a local university. And so I went to all these tryouts during the summer, but I didn't have any resume. I didn't have any highlight tapes because I didn't make the varsity team in high school. And as a result, when the coaches saw me play, they're like, and who are you? I'm like, well, my name is Lo-Ammi Richardson. This is my boys. They all play for the high school team. I'm like, yeah, I know who they are, but who are you? And it was at that moment that I realized that my dreams that I had for myself were shattered. And so I went to school only for the purpose of getting that little financial aid check every semester, that little $3,000, so I could spend it and do what I wanted to do. And so I had the opportunity to go move to Tampa, Florida. And it was there that you would think that I had it all together, but in reality, I did not. It went from smoking to drinking to now selling drugs. And at this point in time, I remember that I had no conscience. When I tell you nothing bothered me, nothing in this world bothered me. There was a situation that occurred where I bought a vehicle from Orlando, drove it up to Tampa, and as I was driving it up, my motor blew. Now, this car looked mad suspect. It was an old police car with the stickers removed. It was white. The tires were blown. And I remember sitting in the car right before I left. My boy gave me 3 pounds of weed and 4 ounces of cocaine for me to deliver from Orlando to Tampa, Florida. And as I was sitting in the car, I called AAA, and I was waiting for AAA to come tow my car to my destination down in Tampa. And something told me, get out the car and stand on the trunk of your car. As I stood in the trunk of the car, I listened to that voice. I got out, sat in the trunk of the car, and mind you, there's no registration on this vehicle. Mind you, there's no license plate on this car. And here I am sitting, and it just so happened that a police officer pulls up. Now, if you had any experience or any encounters with the police, never have I ever encountered a police without him asking me 50 questions and wanted to search my car at the end of that conversation. But he pulls up behind me. He sees me sitting. I'm kind of sitting right by the where the license plate is at, and he asked me, "Is everything all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, my tire popped, and I just called AAA. They're about to tow my car, and I'm going to take it to a mechanic." He says, "All right, you have a great day." Got in his car and drove off. And you would think that at that moment my heart would be pumping. You would think at that moment I'd be scared to death, but not. But there was not a scared bone in my body. And I remember as I reflect back on that time, I realized that I had no conscience. And the reason why I had no conscience is because I was just doing what the culture told me to do. They told me that if you wanted to be successful, that you sold drugs. If you wanted to be the most popular kid in school, you have to cut class. In order for you to ultimately be famous and let the world know you have to do what everybody else did. But as a result of that, there was a consequence. And my conscience at that point was gone. And I would wish I could tell you that life got a little better, but it didn't. I still got into fights. I still got kicked out of clubs, and ultimately my time in Tampa had to come to an end, and I went back to Orlando, and things got progressively worse. Fight after fight, guns being pulled in clubs, and I'm in the midst of it. Now, this is somebody who grew up in a good home. Somebody who grew up with Christian principles, somebody who understood what was right and wrong. But the reason why I made all of these decisions, follow what I'm saying, is because I did not know who I was and what I was created to be. I did not know what my purpose was. And as everything was falling apart in my life, there was this one glimmer of hope. I met this beautiful young lady. Every story has a heartbreak, right? And in this young lady, I found everything that I could not find in myself. And as I invested time, as I spent time with her, right, all of a sudden, I started to grow with her. I started to love her. And there's this old saying, you probably heard it before, it's like, is it better to have loved and lost or never to have loved at all? Well, after that experience, I wish I never met love. You know what I'm saying? Because that heartbreak devastated me. I already knew that the decisions that I made got me to the position that I'm at. But because of that heartbreak, it caused me to start evaluating my life. It started to cause me to think a little bit more about what is it that I want to do? What is the legacy that I want to leave? And I remember getting a phone call from my sister, and she invited me to go to a youth conference. And in this youth conference, there was a bunch of semi-professionals, right? And I was like, all right, cool. I'll go to this conference. I was already in the midst of traveling, and I enjoyed, going to various cities and exploring it and enjoying the food. And as I remember, getting on that bus, right? I'm the kid with the fitted hat. I'm the one with the bubble jacket, the baggy jeans. I get out of that bus with 100,000 questions about the direction my life was going. And as soon as I got on this bus, I saw a bunch of young professionals who felt like they were happy about life, who felt like they were living life to its fullest. And I remember going to these conferences, and I remember listening to a young man sharing his story there on the stage. And as I was listening to his story, I was able to connect. And he was saying that he was willing to die for the thing that he believed in, that he was willing to give everything he had for the cause that he wanted to pour into. And I thought to myself, I wouldn't even be willing to give up money for the things that I'm doing, never less my life for the things that I was doing. And I went from that conference with a bunch of questions that I needed answered. It was finally answered for the first time in my life. It was there that I was scared to death because I had to move back to Orlando, and I knew that the things that I used to do, I couldn't do anymore because I finally found my greater purpose. You see, the same voice that used to get in trouble in class, the same voice that I used to curse teachers out, the same voice that I used to cause me to get into fights was the same voice that allowed me after that conference 5 years later. Listen to what I'm about to say. 5 years later, going back to that same conference in the city where I used to get drunk at, the city that I used to get fights into, in the city that I used to shoot guns at, that same city, they asked me to come back and share my story in front of 10,000 people and 30,000 more watching on TV. And it was at that moment that I realized that my gift, my talent was the words, the passion, my story, that though I made mistakes, I realized that those mistakes did not define me, but it made me the man that I am today. And because of the man that I am today, it propelled me to live out my greater purpose. And it was there that I saw hundreds of people, they're crying, they're wanting to rededicate their life to ultimately live out a bigger purpose than what they had for themselves. And it was on that journey that I was able to, listen to me, to travel all around the country, to travel all around the world, to go to the motherland of Kenya, to go to down under to Australia, to go to UK. And I'm sharing and traveling and experiencing things that I never experienced. Why? Because I finally found out what I was made to be. I found out what my purpose was. I realized what my voice was intended to do. And that was to pour in life to those who may not see life, to give hope to those who are hopeless, to give a chance to those who don't have an opportunity. And as I traveled the world for 10 years, ministering and traveling and speaking life and sharing my story to young people just like yourself, I realized that God gave me a talent and a gift that I never thought I would be able to exercise. You see, what was a hindrance for me before was now a tool to bless others. And I'd never forget, like it was yesterday, last year, we all know about the George Floyd situation. I got asked to go on all of these panels talking about social justice, to talk about, what we can do to impact the communities. And I was going to all of these venues and on these Q&A panels and all of these discussions. I was talking about the topic of social justice. And it didn't matter how much I talked. It seemed like people didn't get it. It didn't matter how much answers I gave to the questions that they asked. It seemed like nobody was going to do something. And I remember listening to this voice and this voice telling me, listen, Lo-Ammi, you can talk about it, but are you going to be about it? Are you going to really make a change in your community? Or are you just going to talk about the solutions, but not really get practical steps on how you can resolve the problems? And it was at that moment that I realized, you know what? I got to help those who don't have the opportunity like I did. And in the midst of all of this, I was able to travel the world. In the midst of all of this journey, I was able to be a published author. Listen to me, regardless of my past mistake, I was able to graduate college. Come on, somebody. And I'll be the first fat person in my family to graduate with a college degree. Not only did I graduate from any college, I graduated from an HBCU. Why? Because I understood the importance of the people that look like me, who don't have the opportunities that I had, who were castaways, who didn't think, or people who didn't give me an opportunity because of the color of my skin. These doors opened up, and because I did not like school, but because I understood that there was a greater purpose than myself, is why I wrote a book. I want to share my story to help young people just like yourself understand that there's something great within you. There's talents, there's gifts, there's solutions that you have to the problems that you see. There's a passion in you, but you have not unlocked it. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing my story, people will be able to tap in and understand that their identity and their purpose is already rooted in them. It's already found in them. It's already in there. You just got to let it be. And so I tell you this because if someone like myself who got arrested multiple times as a juvenile, somebody like myself who got kicked out of school, someone like myself who got kicked out with a less than a 1.0 GPA, can write a book, can travel the world and graduate from college, even though everyone around me wasn't doing what I was doing. And the reason why I was able to accomplish it is because I knew what my purpose was. And I'm telling you that there's something in you. And so there's going to be moments that you are going to feel overwhelmed. There are going to be moments that you're going to question, why did I even decide to go to school? But if you understand your purpose, then those little things are not going to matter because you understand the bigger picture. And so there's going to be 5 things that I'm going to share with you that's going to be tools as you embark on this journey. Number one, write this down if you can. Get your phones, do what you have to do. But number one, I want to promote working together. So many times we try to work individually and thinking that we can make it on our own, but the old saying goes, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. So you got to find people like-minded like yourself that's going to help you get to where you need to get to. If it weren't for the people around me, I would never been able to achieve the things that I never imagined achieving, right? If you only worry about yourself, you'll be trained to care only about yourself. And your life is not meant for you. Your life is meant to be a blessing and to other people. Number 2, write this down. I need you to connect with teachers. I need you to connect with mentors. I need you to connect with coaches. Why? Because they're going to help you unlock what your passion is. They're going to help you understand what your gifts and talents and skills are. They're going to help you understand the problems that are in the world and how you can use your talents and gifts and your passion to resolve them. So number 1, I need you to work together. Work with like-minded people. Number 2, connect with teachers, connect with mentors, connect with coaches. Number 3, I need you to travel the world. Some of y'all haven't even left 5 miles away from your block. I need you to travel the world. And if you can't travel, because I understand most of y'all are broke freshmen, I'm a grown adult and I'm still broke. And I don't get the opportunity to travel out of my dime. But you know what? When you understand your gifts and your talents and your purpose, people will pay you to go travel around the world. Do you feel me? But if you can't travel the world, listen, I need you to seek opportunities that will push you out of your comfort zone. And I want you to explore. So if you're used to eating fried wings and hot Cheetos, explore something different. Try some food. Culturize yourself. And in doing that, it's going to open up your mind to see the world is not in this little bubble that we live in, but there's so much greater opportunities that you can never, ever imagine. So I want you to seek those opportunities. Any little chance that you get to push you out of your comfort zone, I want you to do it. Number four, write this down. I need you to learn from your failure. What? What kind of motivational talk is this? How am I going to learn from my failure? Understand that your failures is a stepping stone to success. The reason why I'm able to achieve the goals that I set out for myself, the reason why I was able to write a book, the reason why I was able to graduate college, the reason why I was able to travel the world, the reason why I was able to do all of these things is because I looked at my past mistakes and I learned from them. I made decision A, and decision A gave me consequence B. And so I look back at my mistakes and I realized, well, if I shift this decision, then maybe, just maybe, the outcome will be different. Number five, we're almost done. I'm about to wrap this up. I need to value your inner self. I need you to love you for who you are, not for what other people tell you you should be. Value your inner self. It is essential. Listen to me as I'm about to wrap up. It is essential that you know to know yourself, what you want from your life, not what others want for you or what is expected of you, but what actually makes you come alive. So I want you to love yourself. I want you to know who you are. And lastly, number 6, I need you to know your why. Know your why. Understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because knowing your why, you're going to understand why you're working hard. Knowing your why, you're going to understand why you're sacrificing hanging out with your friends and partying and rather going out and studying and doing that group project that you need to do. So I need to know your why. When you're working from a value-aligned, purposeful place, listen to me, hard work does not seem so hard. Yes, there was times that I had to grind it out. There was times that I didn't feel like doing it, but I love doing it because I understand the greater purpose as to why I was doing it. So here are some statements that I needed to say out loud. I can't hear you, but I'm going to trust that you're going to say it with me. Number one, I want you to yell out, I am committed. I need to hear it. I am committed. I'm committed on the journey that I'm about to embark on, that regardless of the situation, I'm going to finish the journey that I began. I am committed. I need to tell yourself that I am courageous. I'm going to take chances. I'm going to take risks, that regardless of what culture, whatever my friends tell me, whatever society tells me I can't or cannot do, I'm going to be bold and courageous enough to defeat the odds. Come on, somebody. I need you to yell out with me, I am disciplined. In those moments where I want to take a shortcut, I'm going to take the longer path. Why? Because I understand my greater mission. I understand my greatest vision. I understand my purpose and what I've been called to do. And so I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm going to look at every little step that I need to take in order for me to achieve the goal that I want to achieve. I need you to tell yourself that I am self-made. What do I mean self-made? You can never get to where you get to without a community helping you there. But understand that when I say self-made, is that nobody needs to motivate you to do something that's already been purposed in your heart. Jay-Z once said, nobody is like you. You designed yourself. You create your destiny. You create your story. At the end of the day, when you make it and you achieve the goals, you can actually tell yourself, I've made myself push myself to get to those limits. And lastly, but definitely not least, when it's all said and done, I need you to tell it. I want you to say this out loud. I will serve others. Because understanding your purpose is not about you. It's about the impact and the legacy that you're going to make. And so I want to leave you with this because when I remembered that I will serve others is the reason why I started my nonprofit. And the nonprofit is called the I Am Greater Foundation. And if nobody's going to give me money to give, then I'll take money out of my own pocket to help freshmen get into schools, to help them get scholarships. And I want people just like you to share your story. And I don't care how you share it. It can be through an essay. It can be through poetry. It can be done through a rap song. It can be done through a dance routine. However you want to share your story, I want you to share it. And in return of sharing that story, I'm going to give you $1,000. So I'm going to give that information on how you can apply for that scholarship. And I'm going to give that to you. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because when I understand that my purpose was to serve others, is why I created my foundation, is why I started my non-for-profit. And at the end of the day, why I decided to put my money where my mouth is and help students just like you to get to a higher place than you could ever imagine. And so I want you to be committed to this year. Can you do that for me? I want you to lock in. I want you to affirm yourself and tell yourself, I am disciplined. I am courageous. I am committed. And when it's all said and done, when you finally achieve that goal, I want you to go out and impact the world, impact your school, impact your community, and go and change the world. I believe in you. I believe in you, and I know there's greatness in you, but you got to believe it for yourself. My name is Lo-Ammi Richardson, and that's my time.